right, so you're ready to dive into leadership today. But we're not just skimming the surface, we're going deep, deep with John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership.
Ah, classic.
We've got excerpts and stories, even the book's conclusion, to really unpack why these principles work.
It's one thing to know the rules, but Maxwell is brilliant at showing how they actually play out.
Exactly. And you might think you've got leadership all figured out, but trust me, this deep dive will give you a fresh perspective.
I always learn something new every time I revisit this book.
Oh, first up, we've got this concept of the leadership lid.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
It's all about how your ability to lead, to really lead, determines what you can achieve. You could be overflowing with talent.
But if your leadership is weak,
It's like hitting a ceiling.
a ceiling that limits everyone, not just yourself.
And Maxwell uses this fascinating example, the McDonald's brothers versus Ray Kroc. Same business idea, drastically different outcome.
Oh, that's such a good illustration.
The McDonald's brothers, they were great at running their one restaurant.
Their leadership lid was pretty low, though.
Yeah, they just didn't see the bigger picture. Franchising, building a global brand.
Croca, on the other hand, he was a powerhouse leader.
Mm.
Systems, teamwork, vision. He got it. He saw what that McDonald's model could become and ran with it.
And created the empire we know today. It really highlights how a leader's vision shapes everything.
No vision, no progress, as they say.
Makes you wonder, where's your leadership lid right now? Or what's stopping you from reaching your full potential?
That's a question everyone should ask themselves.
Now, this leads us to the law of influence. Maxwell makes this point. Titles are given, influence is earned. You can have the fanciest title.
But if you don't have influence, you're not really leading.
Think of Princess Diana. Even after losing her royal title, her influence kept growing.
She connected with people, championed important causes, global impact that many in positions of power could only dream of.
It's about people wanting to follow you, not because they have to, but because they're drawn to you. Your vision, your leadership.
Has to be authentic, not forced.
Speaking of, Maxwell tells this hilarious story about Abraham Lincoln as a captain in the Black Hawk War.
Oh yeah, Lincoln. Brilliant on paper, but a clueless leader in the field.
He couldn't even get his soldiers through a gate. It proves that leadership isn't about your credentials.
It's about inspiring and motivating others, actually getting them to move.
Which brings us to the law of process. This one reminds us that leadership development, like anything worthwhile, takes time.
It's not an overnight thing.
Consistent effort, embracing the long game.
Maxwell uses the example of Ann Scheiber, who became a multimillionaire. Decades of disciplined investing.
She lived a super frugal life, but her patience paid off. $22 million, all from that slow, steady approach.
The power of the compound effect. Small, consistent actions leading to huge results.
And this applies to so much more than just finances, right? Think of the skills you're building, the relationships you're nurturing.
What are you investing in? What are you consistently building that will pay off down the road?
That's a great question to ponder. Now, let's talk intuition. The law of intuition. Lots of people think it's some magical sixth sense.
Full mystical, yeah.
But Maxwell breaks that myth down. He says intuition is actually built through experience, pattern recognition, what he calls a leadership bias.
Seeing the world through a leadership lens, basically.
Yeah. Always evaluating situations, spotting problems, seeing potential opportunity. Think of top quarterbacks in football. They don't just react.
They anticipate plays, they read defenses, making split-second decisions based on their deep understanding of the game.
Years of practice, study, experience, that's where their intuition comes from. Not magic, pure skill.
Skill built over time, absolutely.
Maxwell also talks about General Norman Schwarzkopf, another great example of leadership intuition.
Schwarzkopf was known for taking the toughest assignments, the ones nobody else wanted.
Yeah, like that worst of the 6th Battalion in Vietnam, terrible morale, history of failure, the whole 9 yards.
Most people saw a lost cause.
But Schwarzkopf, he saw potential. He used his intuition to identify the root problems, lack of training, poor leadership.
A sense of hopelessness, too. They'd been beaten down.
And he tackled those issues head on. Retraining, empowering junior leaders, instilling a sense of purpose.
That battalion went from failing inspections to excelling in missions.
Just from a shift in leadership, that's powerful.
Intuition isn't just gut feeling, it's informed decision-making, based on experience and a deep understanding of leadership.
It's about knowing what to look for, what to pay attention to. Now, if you want to build a great team, You have to be the kind of leader that attracts top talent.
Right, you're not going to build a winning team with a bunch of mediocre players.
And that's the law of magnetism in action. Who you are is who you attract. It's about aligning your values, your actions, your leadership style with the kind of team you want. Imagine building a sports dynasty.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Like the Dallas Cowboys under Tex Schramm and Tom Landry. Very specific culture. They attracted players who fit that mold.
Discipline, dedication, drive.
Exactly. And when ownership changed to Jerry Jones, you saw a shift in the culture. The players they brought in, the law of magnetism playing out right there.
Different leader, different energy, different team.
It's a powerful reminder. The energy you bring as a leader has a ripple effect. What kind of vibe are you putting out there? Who's it attracting?
That's a question worth considering.
It really is. And that leads us to the law of connection, which states that people follow those they like and trust. You could have the most amazing vision in the world.
But if your team doesn't trust you,
they're not going anywhere with you.
You have to build rapport, connect on a personal level.
Make them feel seen, heard, like Elizabeth Dole. Maxwell says she has this knack for making you feel like her friend, even in a big crowd.
Genuine connection, that's her strength.
And you see that quality in so many great leaders. Ronald Reagan, Martin Luther King Jr. even, Sonny Bono.
Wait, Sonny Bono?
It's true. Different fields, different personalities, but they all had that ability to connect with people on an emotional level.
Make people feel like they matter.
Yeah. It's about touching people's hearts before you ask for their commitment. Now, on to the law of the inner circle, which stresses the importance of the people you surround yourself with.
Your inner circle, those closest advisors, they determine your potential as a leader.
Absolutely. If you've got weak people in your inner circle, it'll limit your growth, your effectiveness as a leader.
It's like having a flat tire on a race car. You're not going to win with that holding you back.
I learned this the hard way when I first took on the leadership role at Skyline Church. We had a good team, don't get me wrong.
But not all strong leaders.
Exactly. And we hit this plateau. I realized to grow, I needed to upgrade my inner circle.
That can be a tough decision, especially if you like the people you're working with.
It was. But ultimately, as a leader, you have to build a team that can support your vision, help you reach your goals.
A team that's going to push you, challenge you.
It took time, but I brought in stronger leaders, people who could offer new perspectives, and it made a huge difference.
There's a classic business example of this too, Henry Ford II and the Whiz Kids.
Oh, that's a good one.
When Ford took over his struggling company, he knew he needed help. So he brought in this group of brilliant young guys from the War Department. Fresh ideas, data-driven approach.
And they played a key role in turning the company around.
It's a reminder that sometimes you need to bring in outside perspectives. People who aren't afraid to shake things up a bit.
But having the right people is only part of the equation. You need to actually empower them to do what they do best.
Give them the freedom to lead, to make decisions.
Which brings us to the law of empowerment. And this law states that only secure leaders truly empower others. It's about trusting your team, delegating responsibility.
Letting them take ownership of their work.
The funny thing is, Henry Ford II, after embracing the Whiz Kids, he later undermined them because he felt threatened by their success.
Oh, wow.
It's a cautionary tale. If you're constantly second-guessing your team, micromanaging...
You're not really empowering them, are you?
Nope. And you're probably holding yourself back, too.
Makes you think. Are you holding your team back because of your own insecurities?
Are you giving them the support they need to truly thrive?
Important questions to ask yourself. And it reminds us that leadership is about developing others, not just directing them. Which brings us to the law of reproduction.
Leaders creating leaders.
It's the ripple effect of leadership.
Maxwell found that 85% of leaders were influenced to become leaders by someone else. Think of coaching legends like Tom Landry.
Landry's coaching tree. So many successful leaders came from his mentorship.
Even those who didn't win Super Bowls still carried those lessons with them.
Powerful legacy.
It really is. Are you reproducing leadership in others? Are you mentoring, developing those around you, helping them reach their full potential as leaders?
It's something we should all strive for.
Now, here's a law that might surprise you. The law of buy-in. People follow the leader first, then the vision.
That's an interesting point.
It's about building trust, establishing credibility before you even present your big plans.
Think of Gandhi. He didn't start with a detailed roadmap for India's independence.
He connected with people, built relationships, earned their trust. Then they followed his vision.
Vision without trust won't get you very far.
Exactly. I experienced this with a building project at my church. We could have rushed in, demanded support.
But you didn't.
We took our time, built relationships with the congregation, really shared our hearts. And when we finally presented the vision for the new building, the support was incredible.
Because you'd laid the groundwork.
Patience and trust, that's the foundation.
It really is.
Yeah.
Now, how about the law of victory? That one's all about mindset. Great leaders just don't accept defeat.
They have this unwavering belief that they'll find a way to win no matter what. Think of Winston Churchill during World War II.
Things were looking bleak.
But his will to win, his belief in victory, it was contagious. He rallied the nation, built those crucial alliances, and ultimately led the Allies to victory.
It's about having that no plan B mentality. Unwavering belief that victory is possible.
It makes you wonder, do you have that kind of belief in yourself, in your team? Do you bring that "we will find a way" attitude to the table?
That's the spirit of leadership. And once you start achieving those victories, momentum builds.
And that's the law of Big Mo in action. Momentum is a leader's best friend. Once you get it going, it's like a snowball rolling downhill.
Attracting resources, amplifying your efforts, energizing your team.
Think of Jaime Escalante and his calculus program at Garfield High School. Took time to build, but once those students started believing in themselves, achieving success.
It created a ripple effect.
It's like that feeling in sports when your team is on a roll, everything just clicks. How can you create that kind of momentum in your own life?
What small wins can you celebrate, build upon, to create that unstoppable force?
That's a great question, and it leads us to the law of priorities. This one reminds us that just because you're busy doesn't mean you're being effective.
We've all been there, haven't we? Running around like crazy, but not making any real progress.
It happens. Sometimes you need to step back, reassess your priorities.
That's what Jack Welch did at General Electric. He was known for his ruthless focus on efficiency.
He got rid of 70% of their projects, just to focus on the ones with the highest potential.
That's some serious prioritization.
He understood that saying yes to everything meant saying no to the things that truly mattered. I use a similar approach with what I call my 3 R's method.
I like it, the 3 R's. Tell me more.
It's simple, really. Before committing to anything, I ask myself, is it required of me? Can someone else handle it, or is it something only I can do?
Makes sense.
Then, does it bring a good return on my investment of time and energy? And finally, does it offer a reward? Something that excites me, aligns with my passions?
A great framework for making tough decisions. It helps you cut through the noise and focus on what matters.
And it brings us to a law that can be tough, but ultimately so rewarding. The law of sacrifice. The higher you go in leadership, the more you have to give up.
Leadership isn't about self-promotion or personal gain.
It's about serving something bigger than yourself, your team, your organization, your community.
Serving a cause you believe in.
Think of Lee Iacocca taking on the challenge of rescuing Chrysler when he didn't have to. He was already successful.
But he saw a need and stepped up.
Put his reputation on the line, his time, his energy, all to save Chrysler and thousands of jobs.
That's commitment. And it's important to remember that the sacrifices leaders make aren't always public or glamorous. Sometimes it's those late nights, the missed family events, the constant pressure to perform.
Think of someone like Martin Luther King Jr. The risks, the threats, the ultimate sacrifice he made.
A powerful reminder that leadership isn't always easy.
But it can be incredibly impactful, which brings us to a law that I think gets overlooked, but it's so important. The law of timing.
Timing can make or break you.
Even the right action at the wrong time can lead to failure. It's about recognizing the opportune moment to make your move, to launch an initiative, being sensitive to the context, the needs of your team. Think of Jimmy Carter's presidency.
Good man, good intentions.
But his timing was off.
The nation was looking for something different.
He was the outsider, initially the perfect fit, but then the energy crisis, the Iran hostage situation.
Overwhelming challenges.
And his leadership, while admirable, just wasn't suited for that moment in history.
Sometimes an idea that fails one year could be a huge success a few years later, just because the timing is better.
I've seen it happen myself. It's a good reminder to be patient, observe, and trust that when the time is right, the right opportunities will appear. Now, let's talk legacy.
The law of legacy. It's not just about what we accomplish now, but what remains after we're gone.
Building something that lasts, something that continues to have an impact.
Leaving your mark on the world.
Think of Roberto Goizueta, former CEO of Coca-Cola. Not only built the company into a global powerhouse, he also ensured it would thrive after he was gone.
Groomed a successor, planned for a smooth transition, thinking beyond his own time at the helm.
It makes you think, What kind of legacy are you building? What impacts do you want to have on the world? What will people remember you for? What will you leave behind?
Big questions, but important ones to consider, especially as we delve deeper into these final laws of leadership. Building a lasting legacy, that's something a lot of leaders aim for. But how do you make sure your impact keeps growing, even when you're not in charge anymore? Well, that's where this law of explosive growth comes in.
Explosive growth. Interesting.
It challenges us to shift our focus from leading followers to actually leading other leaders.
Oh, I like that. Like a chain reaction of leadership almost.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you can't do it all alone. To truly expand your influence, you need to develop other leaders, and they, in turn, will develop even more leaders. Maxwell calls it creating an eagle environment.
Eagle environment. I love that analogy. What does he mean by that?
Well, he uses eagles to represent individuals with that high leadership potential, the ones who can soar to great heights.
Ah, I see.
So an eagle environment is a culture where leadership is not just valued, but it's actively nurtured, it's reproduced.
So it's not just about finding potential leaders, it's about creating a system to support their growth. It makes me think back to the law of magnetism. Are we attracting those eagles in the first place?
That's a great point. It all starts with attracting the right people. But even with the best leaders in place, you have to be ready for the bumps in the road, the challenges that come with growth.
You're talking about the law of pain, right? That idea that growth always involves some level of discomfort, struggle, setbacks.
Yeah, like the saying goes, no pain, no gain.
Right.
And as leaders, we often feel that pain more intensely than our followers. We're the ones making the tough calls,
Navigating the uncertainty,
taking risks.
and sometimes facing criticism.
Yeah, it could be lonely at the top.
But as Maxwell says, that pain, it's a necessary part of growth. It's how we learn, adapt, become stronger.
It's like working a muscle. You got to push it to the limit for it to get stronger.
Right. Makes sense?
It's the same with leadership.
Yeah.
The challenges, the mistakes, they all make us better.
It's about embracing that discomfort, knowing it's a sign you're pushing yourself and your team to that next level. But, sometimes when things get tough, it's easy to lose sight of why you're doing it all.
Get lost in the weeds.
Exactly.
That's where the law of the picture comes in. Leaders need to keep that vision in mind, even when they're dealing with the day-to-day grind.
That long-term vision.
That North Star.
It guides your decisions, keeps you motivated. I remember reading this story in the book about Maxwell leading his church through a major construction project. Delays, budget issues, you name it.
Sounds stressful.
It would have been so easy to just give up.
Lose sight of the goal.
Exactly. But Maxwell kept reminding himself and his team of the big picture, the beautiful new space it would create. And that vision, it kept them going, even when things got tough.
That's the power of a clear, compelling vision.
It inspires people to persevere, to achieve something amazing, keeping that picture front and center, letting it fuel your passion.
Absolutely. Now, this next law, it's one that's really close to my heart. The law of addition.
It's addition.
It's all about adding value to others. That's the foundation of servant leadership. It's not about taking, it's about giving.
Giving back.
Right. Maxwell said something that really stuck with me. He said, leaders become great not because of their power, but because of their ability to empower others.
Powerful quote.
It's a good reminder that leadership is about serving your team, investing in their growth, helping them shine.
Think about the best leaders you've ever worked with. Weren't they the ones who believed in you, challenged you, and supported you?
The ones who wanted to see you succeed.
Yeah. They were adding value to your life, not just using you for your work.
It's about shifting that mindset from what can my team do for me to what can I do for my team.
Help them be their best.
And that takes a certain level of selflessness, putting the needs of others ahead of your own ego, your own ambition.
Right. But, all this talk about giving and empowering, it doesn't mean you shy away from accountability.
Oh, definitely not.
Leadership needs balance. You want to be supportive and encouraging, but you also have to set high standards and make sure people meet them. That's where the law of the catalyst comes in.
A catalyst. That's something that speeds up a reaction, right?
Exactly.
So in leadership, it's about challenging people to push further, faster, helping them reach their full potential, even when it's hard.
Like a coach working with a talented athlete. The coach sees the potential, but also knows the potential won't be reached without some tough love.
Discipline, Accountability.
They push the athlete to train harder, overcome their mental blocks. They believe in them, but they also hold them accountable for results.
Support and challenge. That's the key.
Right. We all need someone who believes in us, but also someone who's going to push us to be our best. Now, this next law might sound a little strange at first. The law of the E. Your vision has to be bigger than you, bigger than your current circumstances.
Think big. Dream big.
Set audacious goals, goals that might even seem impossible at first. Maxwell uses this great analogy of a rubber band.
Oh, I remember that one.
He says, vision is like a rubber band. Pull it too tight, it snaps. Don't pull it at all, it loses its elasticity.
But if you stretch it just the right amount, it can launch you forward with incredible force.
It's about finding that sweet spot, a vision that's challenging but achievable. Inspiring, but grounded in reality.
Stretch yourself, but not too much.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the law of collaboration. This one's all about teamwork.
Working together.
The idea that we can achieve so much more together than we ever could alone.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right. It's about leveraging those different skills, perspectives, experiences to solve problems, innovate, create something truly remarkable.
Think about any great accomplishment in history. Landing on the moon, building a skyscraper.
Or even just a successful project at work. It takes a team, people working together, contributing their talents.
To achieve something extraordinary.
It's recognizing that we all have something valuable to offer, and that together we can achieve amazing things.
And that leads us to the law of the navigator, which is all about strategic thinking, proactive leadership. Anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a real leader to chart the course.
It's about being proactive, looking ahead, anticipating those challenges, and then developing strategies to navigate them.
Leaders who are navigators, they're always looking ahead, scanning the horizon.
There are opportunities.
And potential threats.
Think of explorers like Roald Amundsen, who meticulously planned his expedition to the South Pole. His attention to detail, his preparation, it was key to his success. He knew where he was going, and he had a plan.
In contrast, you have Robert Falcon Scott's expedition, which was plagued by poor planning, a lack of foresight, and that ultimately led to tragedy.
It's a powerful reminder that leadership isn't just about reacting to what happens. It's about shaping events.
Having a vision, a strategy, and the courage to navigate through the unknown.
And that brings us to one of the most crucial principles of leadership, the law of solid ground.
Solid ground.
This one's all about trust. It's the foundation upon which all great leadership is built.
The bedrock of any relationship.
Without trust, you have nothing, especially in a leadership role. If your team doesn't trust you, they won't follow you. They won't believe in your vision.
And they won't be committed to the mission.
Maxwell uses the example of Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. He admitted that he and the other leaders lost the trust of the American people.
And look what happened.
Devastating consequences. The war dragged on, support dwindled, the nation became divided. Trust is essential for leadership to be effective.
It's about being honest, transparent, consistent.
Building relationships based on respect and integrity. Being someone your team can count on. Someone they know has their best interests at heart.
And it's about admitting when you're wrong, taking responsibility for your actions, learning from your mistakes.
Owning up to your shortcomings. So let's move on to the law of respect, which reminds us to see the inherent strength in the people we lead.
People naturally follow leaders who are stronger than themselves. But strength, in this context, isn't just about authority or power.
It's about character, competence, courage, and compassion. It's about demonstrating those qualities that inspire respect. Maxwell tells the story of Harriet Tubman, who, despite incredible odds, led hundreds of slaves to freedom on the Underground Railroad.
A woman of immense strength and courage.
And the people she led, they saw those qualities in her and they followed her. Even though she had no official title or position, she led by example through her actions and through the sheer force of her personality.
A true leader.
It shows that real leadership goes beyond titles and positions. It's about inspiring people, pushing them to reach their full potential, seeing their strengths, even when they might not see them in themselves.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about a law that's often misunderstood. The law of intuition. Some people think it's about having some kind of mystical, sixth sense.
Yeah, like a superpower.
But Maxwell says it's not magic. It's about experience, recognizing patterns, what he calls a leadership bias.
Developing a sense of judgment from years of experience, making those tough decisions.
Think about experienced doctors or detectives. They have this ability to quickly assess a situation and make accurate diagnoses or predictions based on their knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
They just see things that others miss.
It's not that they have some kind of special power. It's that they've trained their minds to spot those patterns, connect the dots, make sense of complex information.
They've developed that intuitive sense, knowing what's going on and what needs to happen.
And that's what Maxwell means by a leadership bias, seeing the world through a leadership lens, always evaluating things in terms of their impact on your team, your organization, your mission. It's about honing that gut feeling, knowing what it takes to lead effectively. Which brings us to our final law, and in many ways, it brings us full circle.
The law of magnetism. Who you are is who you attract. It all comes back to authenticity.
Being genuine, being true to yourself, your values, letting that guide your leadership.
Remember those Dallas Cowboys? Schramm and Landry, they attracted a certain type of player.
Built that culture of discipline, teamwork.
And that came from them, their leadership. They were attracting people who aligned with their vision.
Then Jerry Jones came in and you saw the shift. Different energy, different players.
Different leader, different team.
It shows how a leader's personality, their values, can shape everything. So if you want to attract the best people, you have to be the best leader you can be.
You have to live those values you want to see.
Exactly. You can't build a high-performing, values-driven team without first cultivating those values yourself. So for you listening, what can you take away from all this, all these laws, these stories from Maxwell?
The biggest thing, I think, is that leadership isn't about a title. It's not some exclusive club. It's a choice.
A mindset.
It's about influence, impact, inspiring others to achieve something bigger than themselves.
And these 21 laws, they're like a guide. Anyone can use them to develop their leadership skills.
Whether you're leading a team at work, your family, a community group, even just your own life.
These principles, they can help you navigate those challenges.
And achieve amazing things.
Remember that line from Maxwell? Everything rises and falls on leadership.
Powerful, isn't it?
Look around. What needs better leadership? Where can you step up, make a difference, lead with passion?
Maybe it's a project at work, a community initiative, or even a personal goal you've been putting off.
The point is, leadership isn't about waiting for someone else to take charge. It's about realizing you have the power to make things happen.
Embracing the challenge, learning from mistakes, celebrating those victories, and never giving up on pursuing something bigger than yourself.
These 21 laws, they aren't a magic formula.
No quick fix.
They're principles, a guide to help you through the ups and downs of leadership. It takes effort, self-awareness, a desire to learn and grow. But the rewards, they're huge. The impact you can have, the legacy you build, knowing you've made a real difference. That's what makes a great leader.
So there you have it, John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. We've covered the key concepts, real-life examples, and what it all means.
Now it's your turn. Take this knowledge, this inspiration, and put it into action. Go out there. Be the leader you were meant to be.
The world needs your leadership.
Yeah.